Sit with me for a moment. I want to share something with you. Something most people never hear until it is too late. Your body does not send you a letter. It does not knock on your door and say, "Excuse me, things are about to change." It simply begins, quietly, without asking permission. And by the time most people notice, years have already passed. I have spent 32 years walking alongside people in the final chapters of their lives, over 8,000 patients. And in all those years, the words I have heard most often are not words of pain. They are words of regret. A man named Frank sat across from me not long ago, 73 years old. 3 years before that conversation, he was hiking mountain trails, chasing his grandchildren through the garden, living with full, open hands. When he sat in front of me, he needed help getting dressed in the morning. He looked at me and said, "Doctor, I wish someone had told me. I would have done things differently." Those words stayed with me, and that is why I'm speaking to you today. Because you still have time, and that changes everything. So stay with me. What I am about to share could be the most important thing you hear this year. The first lesson. Your balance is already changing, and you cannot feel it. There is a place deep inside your ear, 3 tiny canals, smaller than a grain of rice, filled with fluid. When you move, that fluid shifts and whispers to your brain, "This is up, this is down, this is where you are." After the age of 70, those canals begin to age. The fluid thickens, the tiny sensors weaken, and the whisper becomes unreliable. A woman named Margaret called me one morning. She said, "Doctor, I feel drunk when I stand up. The room tilts. But nothing is wrong with my legs." I tested her balance that afternoon. She could not stand on one foot for even 2 seconds. 10 years earlier, she could have held that pose for 30 seconds without a thought. Her legs were perfectly fine. It was the ancient system inside her ear that was quietly failing. Here is something I want you to try right now. Stand up. Close your eyes. Can you hold still for 10 seconds without swaying? If you are over 70 and the answer is no, your balance system is already being affected. A study from Johns Hopkins tracked 2,000 seniors and found that those who could not balance with eyes closed had 5 times more falls within the next 2 years. 5 times. But here's the beautiful truth. This system is like a muscle. You can train it. You can wake it back up. Every morning while you brush your teeth, stand on one foot. Start with 10 seconds. Slowly work toward 30. It feels simple. It feels almost too simple. But what you are doing is sending your brain a message every single day. Recalibrate. Stay sharp. I still need you. Margaret did this every morning for 6 weeks. 6 weeks. Her dizzy spells disappeared. She called me laughing. She said, "I feel like myself again." If this is speaking to you, write this down. 1 foot. Every morning. Start today. The second lesson. Your body is running on a slower connection, and most people never realize it. When you were 30 years old and something fell off a table, your hand was already moving before your mind finished the thought. That is the speed of a young nervous system, signals firing like lightning. At 70, those same signals take twice as long to travel. Let me tell you about James. 72 years old, still driving himself everywhere, proudly independent. One afternoon, a child ran into the road chasing a ball. James saw it happen. His brain screamed, "Stop!" But his foot did not reach the brake for a full second. 1 second. At 30 miles per hour, a car covers 44 feet in 1 second. James stopped 6 inches from that child. 6 inches. He came to my office shaking. He said, "I saw him. I tried to stop. My body just would not listen." A Stanford study measured exactly this. At 70, nerve signals travel 30% slower than they did at 50. Your brain takes longer to process what your eyes see. Your muscles take longer to obey. It is not carelessness. It is not weakness of character. It is biology. But biology can be trained. Play reaction games on your phone. Toss a ball against a wall and catch it. These small daily practices send electricity through your nervous system and tell it to stay fast. James started doing simple hand-eye coordination exercises every day. 3 months later, his reaction time had improved by nearly 25%. He told me it felt like someone had cleaned the lens of a camera he had been looking through. Do not wait for a close call to wake you up. Begin training your reactions today. Now, I must tell you something important before we continue. The first 2 things I have shared, balance and reaction time, they are the warning signs. They are the body's way of telling you it needs attention. But the next 3 are different. These are the ones that take people's independence. These are the ones that move people out of their homes and into care facilities. These are the ones that families whisper about at kitchen tables. Give me your full attention now. The third lesson. Your muscles are quietly disappearing, and it begins long before you notice. Maria was 68 years old. She lived alone in Seattle. A proud, independent woman who handled everything herself. One morning, she reached for a jar of pickles. Could not open it. Tried again. Nothing. She called her daughter, embarrassed. "Honey, can you come over? I do not know what is wrong with me." Her daughter opened the jar without effort. Then she asked her mother a simple question. "Mom, when did you last lift something heavy?" Maria thought about it for a long time. "Months," she said quietly. That silence held the answer. After the age of 50, the human body loses 1% of its muscle every single year. By 70, 20% is already gone. By 80, 30%. But what most people do not know, what nobody warns you about, is that between the ages of 70 and 75, the loss doubles in speed. A Tufts University study followed 800 seniors. At 65, they could lift an average of 40 pounds. At 75, only 28 pounds. At 85, just 18 pounds. That is a 55% collapse in strength over 1 decade. Now ask yourself this: what requires muscle strength in your daily life? Getting out of a chair, carrying groceries from the car, opening a door, climbing a single flight of stairs. When those things become impossible, you do not just lose convenience. You lose your freedom. You become dependent on others for the most ordinary moments of life. Maria began using resistance bands, just 15 minutes every morning. Arms, legs, core. Nothing dramatic, nothing painful. 3 months later, she called me. Her voice was different, lighter. She said, "Doctor, I opened a jar yesterday without even thinking about it. And then I stood there in my kitchen and almost cried." A McMaster University study took seniors with an average age of 78 and put them through 12 weeks of resistance training. They gained an average of 4 pounds of muscle. Some gained 7 pounds. At 78 years old. The seniors who did not train lost 2 more pounds in that same period. 6 pounds of difference in 3 months. Your muscles are listening. They are waiting for a signal. Give them one. Start today, even if it is just 10 minutes with a resistance band. Your independence is worth 10 minutes. The fourth lesson. Your bones may be breaking down without giving you a single sign. Dorothy was 73, active, healthy, or so she believed. One winter morning she stepped onto her porch and there was ice. She slipped. She landed on her side. Her hip fractured. But the doctor told her family something that stopped them cold. The hip did not break because she fell. She fell because the hip broke. The bone had become so fragile it gave way under the weight of her own body. The ice was just the final moment. This condition is called osteoporosis, and it moves through the body in complete silence. A National Osteoporosis Foundation study found that 1 in 2 women over 50 will break a bone because of this condition. 1 in 2. For men, it is 1 in 4. After a hip fracture, 40% of seniors never regain the ability to walk independently, and 20% are no longer alive within 1 year, not from the fracture itself, but from the complications that follow. Pneumonia from weeks in bed, blood clots from stillness, infection from surgery. 1 fall, 1 moment on ice, and everything changes. Dorothy survived, but she spent 8 weeks in rehabilitation, learning to walk again. She told me, "Doctor, I thought I was healthy. I had no idea my bones were that fragile." That is the cruelty of this condition. There is no pain. There is no warning. There is only the sudden catastrophe. But you can fight it. Your bones, like your muscles, respond to stress. Impact activity tells your body to build stronger bone. Jumping jacks, light jogging, walking on varied terrain. These are not just exercises. They are messages your body needs to hear. And please, speak with your doctor about calcium and vitamin D. Most seniors are quietly deficient in both. Dorothy committed to a bone strengthening program. 1 year later, her bone density scan showed measurable improvement. Not fully restored, but meaningfully stronger. Do not wait for a fall to take action. Have a conversation with your doctor this week. A simple bone density scan could be one of the most important things you do this year. The fifth lesson. Your brain is losing its map of your own body. I want to explain something called proprioception. It is a word that sounds complicated, but the idea is beautifully simple. Close your eyes right now. Reach up and touch your nose with your finger. You did not have to look. You did not have to think about where your hand was. Your brain simply knew. That knowing, that invisible map your mind holds of your own body in space, that is proprioception. After 70, that map begins to fade. Your brain starts to lose track of where your feet are. You believe you are lifting your foot 6 inches as you climb a step, but your foot is only rising 3 inches. The gap between what you believe and what is real is where falls are born. A University of Michigan study placed sensors on seniors as they walked upstairs. Every single participant believed they were lifting their feet much higher than they actually were. Their brains were telling them a story that was no longer accurate. This is why seniors trip over objects they can clearly see. It is not failing eyesight. It is not weak legs. It is a mind that has lost accurate contact with the body it lives in. Robert was 76. He tripped over his own feet 3 times in a single month with nothing on the ground to stumble over. He was tripping over his own miscalculation. I taught him 3 exercises, simple ones. Standing on one foot, walking heel to toe across a room in a straight line, reaching with eyes closed toward a door handle or a light switch. These exercises do one thing. They rebuild the map. They restore communication between the mind and the body. 6 weeks later, Robert had not tripped once. Here are the 3 exercises I want you to remember. Write them down if you can. 1. Every morning, brush your teeth standing on one foot, 30 seconds each side. 2. Walk across your bedroom, placing each foot directly in front of the other as if you are on a narrow beam. 10 steps forward, 10 back. 3. Close your eyes and slowly reach for a doorknob or light switch from memory. Practice the precision. 5 minutes. That is all this takes. 5 minutes each morning to rebuild the map your brain needs to keep you safe. Margaret followed this practice for 1 month. She told me, "Doctor, I feel steady for the first time in years. I stopped shuffling. I started walking like myself again. Please begin this tomorrow morning. It may be the most powerful 5 minutes of your day." The 6th lesson. The speed of your response in an emergency has quietly been cut in half. When you were young and your body began to fall, your muscles responded before you even knew it was happening. 200 milliseconds from danger to recovery. That is how fast a young nervous system moves. At 75, that same response takes 400 milliseconds. That extra 1/5 of a second, that brief pause between falling and catching yourself, that is the difference between staying on your feet and hitting the ground. Why does this happen? The protective coating around your nerves, called myelin, gradually thins with age. Signals that once traveled like light through fiber optic cable now travel more slowly. The message still arrives. It simply arrives a breath too late. You cannot completely reverse this process, but you can train your nervous system to compensate. A University of California study found that seniors who played action video games for just 12 hours total, spread across a month, improved their reaction speed by 30%. 24 minutes a day. Thomas started playing a simple reaction game on his phone each evening. 2 weeks later, he told me, "I caught a glass falling off the counter. I did not even think about it. My hand just moved." That is the nervous system waking up, responding to the training it was given. Catch drills, reaction games, even simple video games. The tool matters less than the daily practice of asking your nervous system to move quickly. Start today. Even 5 minutes of reaction practice each day is a conversation with your nervous system. And it is listening. The 7th, and perhaps the most important lesson of all. Fear itself may be your greatest danger. I want you to sit with this one for a moment, because it seems to contradict common sense. You might think that being afraid of falling would make you more careful, more cautious, safer. But the body does not work that way. When you are afraid, you tighten. Your muscles contract, your posture stiffens, your movement becomes rigid and small. And rigid, tense movement is fundamentally unstable. It cannot adjust. it cannot flow, it cannot recover. Think of a tree in a storm. The rigid branches snap. The flexible ones bend and return. A British medical journal study found that seniors who reported a strong fear of falling were 3 times more likely to actually fall. 3 times. The very fear designed to protect them was creating the danger they feared most. Helen was 71. She had one fall in her kitchen, a minor bruise, nothing serious. But from that day she began to move as though the floor itself could not be trusted. Tiny, shuffling steps, both hands gripping furniture at all times. She stopped using the stairs entirely. I told her gently, "Helen, I understand why you are afraid, but this fear is making you fall more, not less." We worked together slowly. She practiced walking normally while I stood nearby. We gradually introduced slightly uneven surfaces. We rebuilt her trust in her own body 1 step at a time. 6 weeks later, she told me with quiet wonder, "Doctor, I forgot I was afraid. I just started walking normally again." Confidence is not just a feeling. It is a physical state. When you trust your body moves better. When your body moves better, it catches itself. When it catches itself, trust grows deeper. If fear has been limiting your movement, I want you to hear this. The path forward is not more caution. It is gently, gradually reclaiming your confidence. Consider working with a physiotherapist, a trainer, or even a trusted friend who can walk beside you as you find your footing again. Let us now bring everything together. 7 reasons why people fall, and 7 answers to each one. 1. Muscle loss steals your strength. Answer: resistance training, even 15 minutes daily. 2. Inner ear decline disrupts your balance. Answer: single leg standing practice every morning. 3. Bone loss turns a simple fall into a fracture. Answer: impact exercise, calcium, vitamin D, and a conversation with your doctor. 4. Proprioception fades and your brain loses its map. Answer: the 3 daily exercises that rebuild that connection. 5. Reaction time doubles and the body cannot catch itself. Answer: daily reaction training that keeps the nervous system alert. 6. Medications can silently cause dizziness. Answer: review your medications with your doctor and ask about side effects that affect balance. 7. Fear creates the rigidity that causes falls. Answer: gentle, gradual confidence building with support. Not one of these is beyond you, not one. I want to leave you with Frank. He came back to see me 6 months after our first conversation. He walked through the door without assistance. He stood up from the chair in the waiting room without pressing on the armrests. He looked at me with clear, steady eyes and said, "Doctor, I got my life back." That is what all of this is truly about. Not avoiding falls, not managing decline, not accepting limitation. It is about reclaiming the next 30 years. Your body is changing right now as you sit here. The question is not whether change is coming. The question is whether you will meet it with knowledge and intention, or whether you will let it move through you unopposed. You have the knowledge now. You have heard the 7 lessons. You know what to do. So here's my final question for you. Which of these 7 will you begin today? Pick one. Just one. Write it down. Do it tomorrow morning. Then come back and tell me what happened. Because 30 years of living fully is waiting for you. And it begins with a single step.